Hey guys, Shalana here. Welcome to the Binge Zone. On today's video, we're going to be looking at the 1982 movie, The Dark Crystal. And before we dive in, I have a question for you guys. At what age did you first see Dark Crystal? Because I have to tell you guys, I was 30 years old yesterday when I finally saw the movie. And wow, there's a lot to talk about. So if you guys have not seen Dark Crystal or you guys already saw it, this is the video for you because we're going to be breaking down the original movie in preparation for the Netflix original prequel, Dark Crystals, The Age of Resistance. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. And so Dark Crystal, the movie, takes place in a different world from our own, a world called Thra. And in this world, there are three major races that we have to account for. We have our main character, Jin, who's a part of the Gelfin race. And then we have the mystical wizard race of the whatever it's called right here, also known as the Mystics. And then we have the evil Skeksis. Now, these three races are the prominent three races of this planet, but there are a bunch of creatures galore all around this world, and this movie itself dives deep into that world, and we get to see a lot of it. But for the most part, the general story of the movie follows the main character, Jin, who has to go on an adventure. Essentially, it's a typical RPG movie. You have your main character, the prototype Jin, who has to find the MacGuffin, and using that MacGuffin, he has to save the world from the bad, evil thingamajig. Pretty straightforward, pretty linear, and Jin as the main character himself, wow, it's a cool design because this whole world is a world of animatronics and puppets. The fact that Jim Henson brought this to life, I thought to myself, there's no way a movie made in 1982 could stand this test of time. However, this movie does hold up, and that's because practical effects always beat out CGI because practical effects age really well. But back to the main story, Jin has to save the world from the evil Skeksis. Now he is tasked in this mission by his master, the wizarding Uru, who has the even more complex name, which I'm not going to try to get into. But he has to save the world and find the shard of the crystal from Agra, which is another fascinating character and creature, and purify the Dark Crystal. Because this movie is called Dark Crystals, and the major proponent and the major power and the major source of energy and life on this planet is the Dark Crystal, and it's the source of the power of the Skeksis, because this Dark Crystal essentially allows them to be immortal, and they harness the power and they dominate the rest of the world using the power of the Dark Crystal. Now, a few interesting things of note about this movie is the way the dynamics of the three major race of creatures inhabit. We have Jin, who, like I said, is a Gelfin. However, he is the last of his race because the Skeksis wiped them out because of the dark prophecy that prophesies a Gelfin. When the three suns have aligned, a Gelfin will annihilate the Skeksis. So the Skeksis go on this genocidal warpath and they just slaughter all the Gelfins. However, Jin slipped through the cracks and he was raised by the mystic or the Mystics. He was raised by them, and his quest was to fulfill the prophecy. Now, it's interesting to note that one thing I found out in the beginning of the movie is when the old mystic, the one who raised Jin's master, passes away, the emperor of the Skeksis also passes away, which is the first hint that the Skeksis and the Urus, mystics, whatever, are intrinsically linked. There's something about their life forces that link them together. We get more details of this later on in the movie, and by the end of the movie, we find out majorly what happens. You see, apparently the Dark Crystal, when it shattered and that shard came out of it, what happens is there is a race called the Skeksis. There's a race called the Skeks. Well, you know, all of these things are super hard to pronounce, I swear. Like, I'm just gonna write the words right here. So there was a race of these powerful beings, and when the crystal kind of shattered or broke, the two races split up, and then you have the Mystics and the Skeksis, and the Skeksis are the more malevolent of the races. So their plan is to dominate the planet, annihilate the Gelfin, and live forever, while the Mystics are more peaceful and they retreat into a hideaway, and they kind of allow the Skeksis to do what they do because, like I said, their two life forces are intrinsically linked to the point where if you harm one Skeksis, it's going to harm the mystic counterpart of him who forms the Urskeksik. Damn it, these words are super hard, guys, I swear. But Jin's role in this is to purify the crystal and reunite the two into one. He doesn't know it yet. And I have to say, as a main character, Jin is a vanilla. Jin is bland. Jin is kind of whack. He doesn't do it for me. Jin is one of those characters who isn't that interesting and he's bland. However, about halfway through the movie, we're introduced to another Gelfling who goes by the name of Kira. And Kira is a female Gelfling, and I see what they did there. Male, female, repopulate the Gelflings. Like, I saw that. I peeped. However, she is far more interesting than Jin. Not only the fact that she's a female, right? The fact that she also, the female races of the Geflings have wings so she can fly. And she has a special ability that allows her to communicate with animals, kind of like Snow White or Cinderella, how they command animals and they follow their bidding. So she is far more interesting. And those two together travel the world. And I have to say, this world itself is rich with vibrance. Like the fact that this was made purely off animatronics and puppets doesn't do, is mind-boggling. That fact is mind-boggling because the way the world is lush, the creatures that we will see, the way they move about, like the way this world is built, it has my mind racing at, wow, this is a lot to accomplish in 1982. You guys aren't realizing this was 1982 and we're in 2019 and we have movies that don't have half of the world building and half of the lush environment that these puppets had, and we have CGI. We have CGI. But I digress, back to the movie. Now, when the Emperor of the Skeksis dies, what ends up happening is there's a power struggle between the Chamberlain of the previous Emperor and the general of their army. And they have a power struggle and the general wins and he banishes the Chamberlain. Now, the Chamberlain is a shrewd operator and by far my favorite character just because of the way he moans. He has this funny moan, which I find hilarious. He has that, and that alone, every time he does that, cracks me up. So he goes on this journey to find the Geflings, and he's going to use that as a way to position himself back in the ranks of the Skeksis because he doesn't want to be banished. Like, they live like kings. They're lavish. They enslave the world and they eat everything. They're like the pinnacle of everything on this planet. So he wants his power position back even if he's not emperor. So his plan is to find the Gefling, offer it to the emperor, and make peace. And then you have all these different factions working against each other. And when it finally gets to the final showdown, we see that this movie is a puppet movie that was aimed at kids. But Dark Crystals is dark, not just in namesake, but the tone of the movie, the death that we see, like, it's kind of heavy for a kid. As a 7-year-old, I'd have been like, my, oh my, like, this is a bit too much for me. But it all works out. The story goes off, the hero wins, the two races are united, and they go on, and even some deaths were kind of reversed because of the power of the Dark Crystal. Now, what's really interesting about this movie is it takes place 1,000 years after the Skeksis and the Oru arrive on this planet. So we have a ton of mythology to go over and different ages, because every time the three suns aligned, it seems to be some sort of prophetic thing that happens, like some manifestation of destiny that happens and kind of creates this new age, if you will. Kind of like how Lord of the Rings has the first age, the second age, the third age. This world is set up in ages. We have the Age of Resistance, which is the Netflix original, and we have various ages. So while watching this movie, it's only an hour and a half, and they cram so much things in there. There are comic books, there are books, there are also the Netflix series. There's a bunch of things that expands upon the mythology, and I plan on diving deep into more of the mythology in another video, as well as the Netflix series. So guys, if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to follow me on the socials, especially Twitter, because I'm really trying to build that up. Anyway guys, until next time, binge on.